So, JBP boys, back to business. Wait, what he say? I forgot. But anyway, the Joe Budden podcast, Rory and Mal did not show up for 2 episodes. Then they missed the episode, and I thought it was my YouTube. I'm like, YouTube slipping with the algorithm. Like, what's good? But then I went to go look, and I ain't really seen nothing up there. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? I didn't think nothing other, you know, sometimes people slip up, things happen, we're human. So I didn't think too much into it, but I did feel like, you know, if you listen to the Joe Budden podcast often, you would know that there is some weird tension. I don't see too much moral tension from Joe Budden, but I do remember on maybe the last episode, because they was on the last 2 episodes, but like maybe like 2 episodes behind the last 2 episodes. Joe Budden brought up how him and Mal fought before, and I'm just like, really? I'm surprised you and Rory never fought before. Like, him and Mal have fought a few times, you know. And Joe, you know, I think he does have awesome insight when it comes to music. I do. A lot of people may not agree, but if you really listen, he says stuff. I just don't like that he kind of reneges on a lot of things he says. And some of the stuff he says be dead ass true. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. That's my only pet peeve about him. Like, he'll be quick to apologize or hold the conversation with the celebrity he says something about, or the artist. But he has really good insight on music. If you really, really sit down and listen, he be dead saying the truth, which is cool. Or whatever the case may be. But I could tell he's very toxic, a lot to work with, and he could be a lot. Like with the incident with the Spotify thing, I just felt like, okay, I agree 100%. You know, they were the #1 podcast on Spotify that year. I felt like if he asked for more money, he should have got what he, you know, wanted. He also made a good point, like with Quibi. Quibi was, rated at how much? Like $1 billion company, and then the company crashed. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of people put a lot of money into that company, not even knowing what the projections will look like, right? And Joe Budden was showing you projections, showing you that his podcast was that. But I mean, look, in hindsight, look what's going on right now. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but I'm quite sure some of those arguments that Rory and Mal was having with him was, you know, just kind of how he carries himself and the things he does. And even on the podcast, he always used to talk over Rory, like to the point it was so annoying. Like let that man talk, honey. And I'm surprised Rory never fought him. Rory looked like he wanted to fight his ass a couple of times. I don't know why he ain't never did it, but yeah. He always just took over Rory, and it was just cringy. It was just annoying. Joe has a very big ego. Like, sometimes he says stuff and he like, we run this podcast stuff. We do. Like, sometimes he gets in his bag or whatever, and he gets too overzealous sometimes. And I see it, and I could imagine working with him could be a lot. And also with his other podcast, see, the thing is, he has a Joe Budden network now. Like, after everything happened with Spotify, he decided to make his own network. Cool. He made a pod with 3 girls, Mandy B, Bridget Kelly, and Olivia Dope, prior. And it was cool. See, the thing is, I like the podcast. I still like it with Mandy B and Bridget Kelly and the guests that they have on. I already knew I was going to like it, because even though I like Olivia Dope, she was not my favorite, but she was definitely the fan favorite. When I say the fan favorite, like when you read the comments, they just like, I love Olivia. Olivia's that girl. Olivia. Like, they love Olivia. I actually liked Olivia. This was my thing with that podcast. See, the thing is, I just felt like they used to pick at Mandy for everything. And Olivia was top 5, used to pick at Mandy for everything. But, I also see now that I like watch her rude decisions, and I kind of like pay attention to the podcast, that Mandy low-key kind of rude. And she kind of got a mouth on her, so maybe, like, Olivia was just giving her a run for her money, and I wasn't privy to it at the time. I didn't really know the relationship. It just, but the way it would look while they're filming was just like, Olivia was constantly coming at Mandy for being her authentic self, and, you know, that, for me, I just personally didn't like, but I didn't know they was going tick for tack, so allegedly, you know, that was one of the reasons why she left, was because of Joe. And it was one episode where, Joe Budden went on the episode and he was kind of just giving weird vibes to Olivia. Like, it was giving me that he knew Olivia was the star, but he didn't want her to feel like the star. Like, you know how motherfuckers do that? Like, we know you the best, you that girl, but we not gonna let you feel like you that girl. I hate people like that. Like, if I'm that girl, let me know I'm that girl. But I know you trying to humble me, but I don't need you to humble me. I'm humbled. Like, you know those type of people that feel like, oh, let me humble you. No, you don't have to do that. I'm good, beloved. Like, there's no need. Like, that's what he was doing to her. Like, it seemed like he was trying to come down on her to make her, like, stay on her level because he didn't want the comments to get to her head or whatever the case may be. So, Olivia left the show. The sis didn't even make it to about 50 episodes. You get what I'm saying? And I just felt like that looked sus on the network. It just looks sus altogether. You get what I'm saying? So, it's giving very, you know, Joe, you gotta get it together, baby. Like, you gotta get it together, honey. Also, you know, Joe Budden talks a lot about how much millions he turned down. It's like, you always talk about that shit. How do you think that might make Rory and Maul feel? Like, maybe you had money. Maybe Rory and Maul wanted to take that risk. You know what I'm saying? Why did you turn down that money? You get what I'm saying? To make yourself feel good? To boost your ego? That's what it seemed like, because you always bringing it up. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, I don't know. It's a lot of, the energy was definitely weird. At one point, Rory would always call Joe Budden out on his crap. And I think they had a discussion where Joe was like, yo, you gotta stop calling me out and stuff on the pod. And you could tell in a couple episodes, Rory kind of chilled. And he also kind of chilled with cutting off Rory as well. So it's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of nonsense going on with that pod, you know, and another pod too. Like, and you know, that's why I love, you know, doing a pod by myself. And that's, I actually brought that up. Like, they talk about, like, one of the things with doing a podcast by yourself, you don't gotta deal with nobody. You know what I'm saying? You make your own decisions. And I'm starting to really see that a lot. Cause I've seen a lot of podcast breakups. Well, and just a lot of problems, like with Call Me Daddy. It's this other podcast that got broken up, and the other guy was on the show on Flagrant 2 with Andrew Schultz. I forgot, but they broke up, and I heard that was big news. I didn't listen to that pod. Even with Horrible Decisions, Mandy and Weezy, they go through it a lot. Like, they did a Q&A, and they had arguments, and they had to go through therapy. And I'm just like, bitch, I gotta go to therapy for myself. Now I gotta go to therapy with my co-host. Like, you get what I'm saying? And it's not, and they talked about how they're not really friends no more because of it. And Rory and Maul said that. Rory said that with him and Joe. Like, they not really friends no more. I just think one of the things you can't do is business with your friends and family. And I think you can't live with friends and family, except your mom and dad, obviously. But you can't really live with your friends and family, especially if their life has changed a little bit. I mean, I just don't think it's a good idea. It doesn't work well. Some people could do it. This is the only time I think you do it. Let's say, like, for instance, I was living with my brother at my mom's house. And then we eventually moved in together gradually first. Then it might work. But if we went on to move in different apartments, like I lived by myself, he lived by himself, and then one day I called him like, I need to move in, that's a bad idea. Because now I already know what it's like to live by myself. I never experienced living with you alone. It's like, it's just a bad transition. And living with friends are really bad. Because I remember in college, a lot of people stopped being friends once they were roommates, once they lived with each other. I don't know what the living thing is. I don't know what it's about with the living thing, but people cannot live together. Yeah, it's not doable. You know, friends and family, business clearly is not doable either. And potting is not doable. It's not doable at all, it seems. Like, a lot of people say they're not friends no more. And it's sad, you know what I'm saying? Like, dang, we used to be dumb cool. Now we not even cool. We in therapy. We in legal meetings. They said they had an argument on Twitter one time. I was like, I missed all of this. So yeah, it's a lot. So that keeps me motivated, you know. And not to be shady, bitch, but you know, they making room for other black potters, okay? Like me. You feel me? Because yeah, like I was like, well, because Joe Budden podcast is a big podcast. So now they leave, you making room for somebody else to grow. You feel what I'm saying? It may not be me, it might be somebody else. But I do hope they stay because I love the Joe Budden podcast. Like, it's one of those podcasts that I'm surprised that I like. Some people think it's masculine, it's not masculine. Like, if you a female, you think you might not enjoy it, you probably will really enjoy it. Because they talk about a lot of what's going on today. They do music reviews and they talk about artists, and this should be true. And they sometimes talk about dating. And what I like about them is that they niggas, and I like hearing their views on women sometimes, or their dating life, because it kind of like makes you think about certain things, and now you could think, your head could be in the mind of a man. That's how I view it, you know. So I really enjoy Joe Budden podcast. Like, when it happened, my husband came home, he was like, I was like, the Joe Budden podcast is Sunday. He was like, what happened? Like, he was like, wait, what? Yeah, because, you know, JBP voice. Every time he hear it, he be like, why? Those are two people my man don't like. Charlamagne the God and Joe Budden. He's a big hater, and I think it's just because I watched him. He just always be like, I don't understand how a person could listen to somebody all day and listen to somebody's opinion. Why? Because they're a man. You mad? You think I got a crush on them? Because I like listening to other men's opinions. So, yeah, that's like our little cute tit for tat or whatever that we do in the house. But, yeah, it's scary out here. It's scary out here with the potting. You know, it motivates me to just keep doing what I'm doing. And it's scary. And I hope they come back. But I'm also big on, you know, if you feel like you're in a toxic situation, like if Rory and Moore really feel like, yo, Joe is draining this, like, there's some things I just can't forgive, then don't go back. Because I'm big on too now. Like, I look back. You just finished watching a clip from a podcast called Brit Says The Podcast. BRITTSAYS. If you want to watch that full episode, you can click right up here. And if you want to stream and listen to Brit Says The Podcast, it is available on all DSPs, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, DEEZER, iHEARTRADIO, anything you can imagine. You'll find Brit Says The Podcast. So go ahead out, listen, leave a review, and 5 stars. And while you're here, subscribe to my channel.